unstoppable, and free by God. By God. Always remember the caveat. Always remember that. When people outside of Christ think I'm unstoppable, no one can tell me what to do, oh, God can and will own you one day. He will stop you. But if you are a child of God and you allow God to use you and your unique self, you're unstoppable. God is the only one that can stop you. But if you're called by Him, and I'll tell you what, I'm reminded constantly of the pitfalls of living in an American culture and a culture anywhere. You're not allowed to be different in a church, in a workplace, in a social setting. You're not. Our society doesn't allow that. You know, everything's about which camp are you in. You smoke pot? You into tattoos? You into piercings? You into Subarus? You into dogs? You into Starbucks? Are you a conservative? Are you a Democrat? What are you? What are you? And that's how we make our friends in our society. If you want to be viewed as normal, then you have to fit in somebody's box. If you don't, you will be perceived as weird. You will be judged. You'll be maligned. And you will not be invited to anybody's reindeer games. Since I am not doing live chat, if I can be heard, somebody please thumbs it up. Because I have no way to test the sound. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, when you are different, there's a suffering that comes that the rest of society is unfamiliar with and they're not aware. When you are different and you don't fit inside somebody's box, you're going to be judged. You're going to be maligned. I find the older I get, the hardest thing is dealing with other people. Not the job, not machinery, people. And when you are not like somebody else, boy, is it tough. When you think outside the box, for example, I'm a Christian, but I saw a bumper sticker years ago that I agree with. God, please save me from your people. When you get older, when you go through life, you start to realize there's truth to that. There's some Christians that are not good to be around. There's some Christians that are trouble. There are some Christians that they're not walking in the Holy Spirit. They think they are. They think they're dotting their I's and they're crossing their T's. And they're not. Self-righteous people are the most difficult people to work with to attend church with, to have as a neighbor. Look at me. I dress different. I act different. I've made a lot of mistakes. But you know what bothers me? Is any video I put out standing on the truth. And you got somebody on there that thinks they're so smart. They'll make a comment, missing the point of what I said, fixating on some gnat over here. And I've had to learn, don't answer all that. I did a video today. Don't plant your flag on our soil. If you come to America, if you've left your country as a refugee, don't come here waving your flag and say how wonderful it is. And somebody came back and said, there's nothing wrong with loving your country. That's not what I was talking about. But when you stand in the streets waving your flag and say, do you hate this country? But you came over here because your country was so wonderful that you left it. That's what I'm talking about. Why would you do that? When I went to Hong Kong, I didn't walk down the streets waving an American flag. Oh, it sucks here. I enjoyed Hong Kong because I know I'm an American and I will go back home. Well, I tell you, I did a lot of dumb things. I had no health insurance back then. I had no health insurance until a few years ago. I've yelled and gotten mad at God, and all I have to do is look back on my life and realize that, guess what? God protected me. Big time. What if I'd have gotten hit by a car? What if something happened? Wow. God was looking out for me, and he still does. But what do you do when you get around people? They don't like your way. They don't like your style. It's not like you have BO and you're being obnoxious. You know, I told you about the church I go to. They got a problem with long hair. You got the women in there with the fake dyed blonde hair. You got the women in there with the tattoos and overweight, and everybody's okay with that. But Michael having long hair is a sin. Stop following club rules. We need to submit to God's laws. But be very careful about submitting to man-made club rules. I'm not talking about speed limit and pay your taxes. You better do those. I'm talking about churches that say dancing is a sin, playing cards is a sin, going to the movies is a sin, growing your hair long is a sin. And they quote that from 1 Corinthians. I think context is in order. You look at the men that had a Nazirite vow. They were not to raise their head. And some woman said, well, you're not a Nazirite. I never claimed to be. But if long hair is a sin on a man, then why did God tell them not to shave their head? I think we need to do a little digging and understand. Now, the Bible talks about unnatural. You going to go tell the Vikings they looked feminine because they had long hair? I don't think so. I can't stand my hair short. The only thing I like about it, it's like the military, wash and go. I don't have to futz with it. But rest assured, I miss my locks. Does my hair define me? It shouldn't. What should define me? God. the unique way that God made me. You know, they used to say, that's just Michael being Michael. I remember when I got saved, I wanted to be the next Billy Graham. I no longer desire that. You know what I want to be? I want to be used as much as humanly possible by God. I want to experience people and life, and I have. Oh, it hasn't been easy. I've experienced some things I'd rather can we not do that right again, please, God? And I speak out about politics. I speak out about things. And I don't want to, my video got interrupted today. The devil. I was on a roll this morning. Boy, when I catch the fire, I got to get on here. The creative juices are flowing. I feel that I need to speak. You got these Somalis fussing and whining in our country. Get out. We don't need you. You know, there's one thing that people don't get in this country. You cannot unite good and evil. You cannot unite a culture that hates our Constitution and biblical values. So stop trying. Multiculturalism doesn't work. Even at the job I'm in, you got a black guy, he only says hi to the brothers. Not going to say hi to me on his own volition. You know, I've seen so much stuff in my 59 years. And this media is nothing but a liar. People say you're racist. No, I'm not. But why are Somalians coming here and then complaining about it and waving a little flag? Well, go home. If it's so wonderful, go. Nobody's stopping you. I noticed I was just getting the turbo spooled up, and I told my friend in a text message, I said, Satan must be sitting on the cell tower in Augusta and scratching his butt with it. You think Satan doesn't try to thwart us? Absolutely. When you're speaking hard truth, ooh, the devil hates that. You know, you can go to church all across this country. You know why there's so many old people in church? Because they're not challenged anymore. You can go in there and go to sleep. It's like sitting in a lazy boy recliner. Oh yeah, my favorite preacher. Yeah, it's just like that. These churches aren't heavy hitting. No, they're not. They're not drastically changing the culture. My stuff grabs people. You know why? Because God has given me a gift, and YouTube allows me to use it. That's why. You know, there's very few people that can stand up and speak. Am I perfect? Am I without sin? No. But I thank God for the freedom He's given me to be Michael. I thank God for giving me the freedom and the boldness and the testicles to stand up and say the things I need to say. The problem, and the reason we've had these problems, is because Republicans, conservatives, and God-fearing people, you know, they just tried to love everybody. Well, you know, we don't want to be offensive. We want to show the love of God. Well, that's working great, isn't it? Democrats are just taking over everything. Part of being a Christian is speaking up. But the problem is too many Christians spend more time worried about Michael's clothing and not the real issues in life. They're not speaking the way I speak. They're not even trying to witness. They're not even trying to make a bold stand. They're too busy judging my clothing or my hair. Yeah, you know, it's... The Titanic's like this in the water, and you got somebody walking down the deck going, there's a stain on the deck. We better get a crew member to clean it. What? Dude, the ship's sinking. Are you paying attention? It's going to be more than a stain in a couple hours. This is why abortion is wrong. How do you know all those kids you're killing weren't mighty warriors, could have been mighty warriors for God? God's not going to let that slide. No, he isn't. No woman is going to stand before the Almighty and say, well, it's my choice. God's going to say, no. No, it isn't. You murdered somebody because you're selfish. People don't like to say that. They don't like it. They don't like it at all. No man has a right to tell a woman what to do with her body. God does. And God said there's 6 things I hate, 7 that are detestable to him. Hands that shed innocent blood. Okay, so what's innocent blood? The Bible says in Adam all die. That means all of us that are alive, we've sinned, right? All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But you got a baby in the womb. Have they sinned yet? No. So what's the hands that shed innocent blood? Well, there you go. You know, it's interesting in the Bible. It talks about when 2 men are fighting and they bang into a woman and a woman has a miscarriage. That was murder. You know what's funny about our society? You know what's mind-blowing? Abortion is okay. But if a man was to go out and kill a pregnant woman, he's guilty of 2 homicides. Wait a minute. But that's just a placenta. That's just a fetus. Isn't that funny how the law works like that? So even the law knows you kill a mother and her baby, you've committed 2 murders. But then you turn around and say, well, it's choice and it's not murder. Isn't that funny how that works? Isn't that funny how that works? You know how you do a test for mental illness? When you look at that kind of logic. I've said it before. You know, without a doubt, the Democratic Party is so wrong. But let's touch on something here. And I started to this morning. I voted for Donald Trump. But I'm here to tell you, my paycheck has got to go up because the cost of living is going up. Every time I go to the store, every time I turn around, you know, last week I went in there, this crap went up a complete $1 in the space of a week. It's now pushing almost $5. It was 3 something. Everything is going up. Every single thing. And it's not just going up 5 cents. It went up $1. And there's something wrong with our CEOs. The CEO of Walmart said, I'm going to raise food prices because of theft. So let me get this straight. You're going to punish those of us who don't steal by making us pay high prices for all the thugs and idiots. Why can't we go back to store owners sitting at the front door and say, you walk out that door, I'm going to shoot your feet off. Go back and pay for it or put it down. Why do we not have consequences for evildoers? I bet you a lot of people would stop stealing if every shop owner was allowed to be armed and say, you walk out that door with those goods you didn't pay for, you're not going to have a foot left. That'd be a good deterrent, I think. People think that's cool. I don't. But our society punishes people. It punishes people that do what's right. Why is that? Why? Why is the United Nations in this country? The United Nations are not united. I'm not in unity with Iran. I'm not in unity with North Korea. And we don't need a conglomerate of bossy butts telling America what they need to do. We're a sovereign country. You wouldn't want to know what I would do if I was president. I'd shut down Okinawa and I'd shut down Germany and say, no more overseas bases. We're going to police our own, and we're going to solve this problem. We're going to use our military to stop the drugs. We're going to use our military. And you know what? We talk about the Department of Homeland Security, and that's going to change. We're not going to allow a nation to promote hateful, violent, just debased lyrical content music. Because that's aiding and abetting people to become dangerous to public safety. The public school system, I would not allow them or tolerate them to teach godless evolution. Oh, well, you can't do that. Oh, no, but you want them to teach a lie, and you think that's okay. And then you wonder why kids are acting Neanderthal. Could it have to do with the view that there is no God have anything to do with it? I've learned something in 59 years. Through no fault of my own. I cannot get a date, will not get a date with a slender, attractive, good-looking woman. It took me 50-something years to learn this. I got to have a fat bank account or I'm going to be a criminal. Michael just being Michael? Oh no. I'm not worthy enough for the petite, slender hottie. That's a fact. This is a fact in our country. There's guys talking all over YouTube about this. More and more women are becoming lesbian. More and more women are saying, I don't need a man. More and more women are obsessed with their dogs. And if they do date a guy, they want him to be obsessed with the dogs or no deal. Wow. We're not Kansas anymore, are we, Toto? And I talk about the issues. I talk about the things that matter. The CEO of Walmart's got it all wrong. Shut down the stores where the theft is high. Simple. Simple. Shut them down. Don't punish those of us who are honest. I go through the self-checkout. I ring up every damn thing. Because, my Bible teaches me that stealing is not right. Then God's not going to honor it. But he's also not going to honor the corporations patting their wallets and stealing from us. The Bible talks about a time is coming in the tribulation where it'll take a day's wages to buy a loaf of bread. That's scary stuff. People laugh at God. They laugh at the whole idea, say it's a fairy tale. I can prove to you that God exists just by the way people act. Because everything he said about us is true. People hide behind their college or their degrees and think, well, we're too educated for that. No, you're brainwashed. You're going to tell me you're educated. What? In pseudoscience? Okay. And you expect me to take you seriously. I can't stand Richard Dawkins. That guy didn't write one thing in his book that proved that God doesn't exist. The God delusion. All he is sarcastic, snotty, rude, stupid. There's nothing in there that proves that God doesn't exist. Nothing. He's just an arrogant, self-deceived clown. People get mad. You shouldn't talk like that. I don't have to listen to you. When somebody says there is no God, I'm going to call him what he needs to be called, a clown. The Bible calls him a fool. I thank God that he exists. It'd be stupid for us to happen by accident, no purpose, all meaningless, pointless. The body is too complex for it to have created itself. The mind of us is able to reason, and animals is not. Now we have AI taking over. Isn't that cute? We got artificial intelligence. We really need that, right? Not real intelligence, mind you, just artificial. Well, we're plastic people today. People are superficial. Now you hear stories of people falling in love with AI, and how could you do that? How could you fall in love with an artificial nothingness? That is no substitute for the touch and embrace of a woman that you can smell her hair and she puts her arm around you and says, "I love you, honey." But our society is getting bored. That's why they're trying all these different sexual things. That's why our society is just pushing the envelope more and more. They're bored. They can't deal with the simplicity of being content. Couples that are married get bored with each other, so they open up their bedroom to couples. Doesn't help the marriage. You feel good about that? The Bible says sin is pleasurable for a season. It is. For a season. Look, we've all done sin because it feels good. Did you ever feel good after that? If you're a child of God, you don't. The guilt. But let's we could talk about those Christians that no matter what you try to do, you can live your Christian faith and they still don't talk to you. I mean, I go to a church where, the pastor's pretty on about his message, but he holds to some old stuff that's not biblical. And I like my pastor and his wife. They're nice people, but that church is very small. And there's people that have never spoken to me, never said hello, smile, or anything. Would you go and talk to them? I shouldn't have to. When you become a Christian and you go to churches and you're not welcomed, man, that's messed up. I thank God that he saved me when I did get saved. But when we don't have community, and you go to the workplace today, and you're not encouraged to be you. Bible says, do not let this world squeeze you into its mold. Man, is it trying? Is it trying? I would go longer, but I'm tired, so I'm going to tune out for the night. But I thank you for those of you that still follow the channel. Those that have showed up and proven they were only interested in the silliness of chat and not the content. We saw some numbers drop a little bit, but that's okay. If God is behind something, that's what matters. If God is not behind something, then we better go find something else to do. Because if he doesn't build the house, then we wasted our time trying to build it. I thank everybody for my faithful followers and fans. that listen because they want to hear real grit, real stuff. Bless you for that. And by the way, it's Friday. And I want everybody to be safe and have a good evening and weekend. And I need your prayers. Don't fail to pray for me. I need them. I need them every day. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. And thank you in advance for that. Anybody wants to donate, hashtag Pacific Ocean Asia 77. All one word, Pacific Ocean Asia 77. Hashtag, that's Cash App. Anything you can do is appreciated. If you can't, I'm glad you're here to hear these messages anyway. I'm not a business. I like to talk, and I like to speak from the heart. And for those of you that like to listen, thank you. Have a good evening and be safe.